Greetings, all you Jackson Jets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's boy the Viking Donkey coming to you with the Steelers talk. This is going to be a fun one after 4 or 5 start to the year. Not a lot of fun to go around. Laskus and Gingy are here. I'm going to let you know if there's audio problems. I am sorry. Packet loss up here in Alaska is a real thing, as apparently too many people are streaming too much stuff at one time. We are going to try to figure out a fix for next week. But if it's bad this week, please just deal with it, because we're going to try to give you the best content. And I am very, very sorry, but all we can say is we're going to do our best. We're going to try to not miss things. If I feel like I see the lag going on, I'll try to repeat, but please just stay in there with us. Hang on. We're going to give you content. Last Gingy, let's go ahead and break into the Miami Dolphins loss 16-10 and a really awkward second half with no points.
What a terrible game. I'm so glad I decided not to stay up for the second half, because I don't ever want to watch a game where there is 0 points scored in the second half.
And yeah, Mutant Gingy in the house, holy smoke, missed opportunities, folks. That game, for as dynamic and high-powered as to it, and that Miami offense is coming back, no points scored in the second half, as last week mentioned. 4 opportunities were there. He's on that offense in terms of the run. To help out a rookie quarterback and Kenny Pickett, you need to right the ship there first.
I agree with you, and if we ever see a 3rd and 1 carry go to Najee Harris, a.k.a. I'm going to hurdle in the backfield on 3rd and 1 instead of lowering my shoulder, Najee jumper, I'm going to lose my mind, because I don't know what's what, but Jalen Warren on the 4th and 1 play showed you how you convert 3rd and short plays or 4th and short plays. You find a little gap, you lower that damn shoulder, and you pump them damn legs, Gingy. Why do the Steelers personnel, smart geniuses up top, not realize that one guy's better than the other at the situation and use the guy who's better? Why is it like, no, we like this guy, so he must be used in all situations type of play? Like, what the heck is going on?
Well, it's really tough in Steeler land. You're really trying to salvage the season, Donkey. It's a very proud organization. It doesn't really is not a big fan of rebuilding. And but honestly, that's where the roster is at in terms of transition. And in my opinion, Donkey, I think the Liz Frank has an effect on Najee. In terms of his explosiveness, his lateral movement, being able to shift, I think all those things are severely impacted by this and making him look worse than he is. You know, we're talking about Jalen Warren hitting the whole part of the Najee Harris. Well, you know, maybe that's true, but I have my doubts, and I'd like to see maybe if the Steelers season continues this way, allowing some of these cornerstone guys for the future to have their rest and to be healthy. PJ, Najee, etc.
I hear you, Gingy, but even last year, Najee was not a very successful short yardage running back. Say what you will about him. It's just not seemed to be the type of running back he is. He seems to be a guy who doesn't realize what his weaknesses are, so he doesn't play to his strengths and try to avoid his weaknesses. We see it week in, week out. He tries to play to his weaknesses. He always tries to get outside and beat people to the edge, but he doesn't have that ability. I feel Najee is one of those guys who needs a big cup of humble pie. A big piece of humble pie to learn what his weaknesses are. Because when he starts playing to his strengths, I think he has the potential to be a really good running back. I don't think Saquon Barkley type level is what you're going to see from him, but I'd say a good running back, mid-tier type guy. I don't know where else he could go from there. And I do agree with you. I think the injury's been a big problem. You've seen it every week. He looks slightly better. But if the injury is such a big problem, why don't they just give him a week or 2 off and let Jalen Warren, and geez, I can't believe I'm saying this, Benny Snell carry the load for a week, get him healthy and look better. Because I'm going to be honest, we have a run game like that with a rookie quarterback. Gingy, quick question. What is the recipe for success when you have a rookie quarterback?
got an established run game.
You're telling me we shouldn't be throwing the ball 45 times in a one-score game?
Why not? No.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. Laskers, what can we say about this defense? Highest paid defense in the league. Once again, I believe it was 0 sacks. I don't know if there was a quarterback pressure, and no turnovers. I don't remember what
Is there
that
still
No, there's
sacks produced in this game?
no sacks.
No sacks, no turnovers.
Good.
I did have all this pulled up earlier, and my computer decided that it didn't really want to continue to pull that up.
That's fine. It's a broken record with this team. I mean, the other broken record with this team this year is you throw the ball to Deontay Johnson, it's going to be successful. I mean, you're talking about a guy who averages less than 2 yards of yak, and that's what he's supposed to be, Gingy, right? A dynamic ball or player with the ball in his hand, make people miss, get those yards after the catch, not getting the job done, getting interceptions thrown on him. Let's be honest here. Both interceptions by Kenny Pickett in the second half were forcing the ball to Deontay is what I'll call it. The first half interception, Chase Claypool, seriously, Gingy. Big old ass Chase Claypool gets decked by a 5'10 corner with a little touch. Dude needs to be stronger, right?
6'2" dude plays like he's 4'2".
Fair. I love it. That's going to be the new saying. But Laskers, I want to talk about Deontay Johnson here. Slipping out of his cut. I'm not saying that first interception doesn't happen, but he makes that cut, he at least can compete for the ball. Slips out of his cut, which we've seen 3 or 4 times this year. Can't. And now maybe the weather did play a big thing. I mean, you're talking a Dolphins offense that put up 13 points, 160 yards in the first quarter. In the second half, can't produce anything. A Steelers offense that looked pretty good in the second quarter can't produce anything in the second half. Maybe the weather had something to do. But Deontay Johnson slipped out of his cut, not getting to the ball. The second interception, last year, is the problem I have. The ball's in the air, and Deontay Johnson is just lackadaisically lollygagging in the end zone instead of trying to go and compete for the football against the DB at that front pylon. Was it a good throw by Kenny Pickett? Hell no. But does Deontay Johnson not have to compete?
Oh, he definitely has to compete. I mean, there's no question. If you're a number 1, quote unquote, wide
$20
receiver,
million a year.
you gotta compete for any ball in the air. And if you don't, well, then you're clearly not a number 1, which we've all said that this year.
Yeah, I have
suspicions. Had our suspicions all along.
Yeah, it's weird when a volume guy doesn't get the 20 targets a game, his stats can go down. I mean, kind of crazy when he's not force-fed the ball that he's not really that great of a receiver. Because, I mean, he wasn't great all along. But Gingy, I have to say, you can break into Deontay a little bit after this question. If we were to trade a wide receiver Johnson before people realize what a lemon he is, then Chase Claypool.
We're still in growing mode, to be honest with you. If we're talking about I mean, yeah, he did well in Notre Dame, donkey, second round guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I never thought he was a first or second year impact guy. I always saw him as a development guy, especially based on the emotional maturity of that guy throughout those first and second years. I think he can only get better from here, but he's got to start playing big. Oh my gosh! Again, you're talking about guys who are playing into their weaknesses, and they need to play into their strengths.
All right, I hear you on the wide receiver front, but the wide receivers can't develop their own plays. They have to run the routes given to them. And I hear you on that. Now, I'm going to get into how much I am upset about that. You've already heard me talk about it, how these guys used to get it open and don't now, and how that's on coaching. But I hear you on that. As a running back, Najee can choose to not bounce it out, but I love what you're saying there. Your boy Pat Freiermuth had a good game again, Gingy, but I'm going to point out one thing. Every game, every fourth quarter, whether it be bad luck or just bad hands, and I'm not saying he has bad hands, but, the drop in the one game was pretty bad hands. Firemuth always has one ball that you're just like, man, if he could have just held on to that, it would have been amazing. And this week, I'm going to talk about the tipped ball in the fourth quarter right into him, hits him in both hands. Tip ball's really hard to catch. I'm not blaming him for it. But man, could you imagine if Pat Firemuth just had that clutch vibe and just made those clutch catches? Because I feel like there is a superstar there if these balls just stuck in his hands, Gingy.
Yeah, the difference between wins and losses at this point, and he's right on the precipice. Remember, we're still talking about second-year guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
But Gingy, I know you love that guy. Give me the reason to believe that clutchness is going to happen, because every week it just feels like just whether the Mitch Trubisky curse, right? Where the ball got snapped by him. It's not Mitch Trubisky's fault that it happened. And I heard the guy in front of us at the Steelers game in Tampa Bay say this. It's not Mitch's fault that it happens, but it happens because it's Mitch Trubisky. I'm starting to get that feel with Pat Firemuth. It's not Pat Firemuth's fault the ball got touched and he dropped it, but it happened because it's Pat Firemuth, you know?
Yeah, I hear you, Donkey, but, in my mind, what I'm hoping for and what I'm looking at is I see Pat Firemuth as, yes, he's a guy not there, but right on the edge, and he seems like a character guy. Like a guy who is going to work at it, is going to improve, seems to be committed to me. And I feel like those are the guys who get those rewards in the end, who see that improvement.
That's fair. I'm gonna be honest here. Really weird to see the Panthers. One last guy I want to get your guys' take on. Offensive line play decent, I think we could say. I want to give a shout out to Dotson. I mean, dude's been knocked on, but last year he came out and looked like the best offensive lineman on the team this week, did he not?
Oh, you know. Second half because I decided it was better. Really, it looked good this week.
I think he was the highest rated player on the team on PFF this week.
That's good to know. I mean, PFF, the only stats I look on PFF are offensive linemen, because they do a mediocre job at it, which is better than anywhere else I know. The other stats, they can just go kick rocks, because they're terrible at judging the rest of the stats. If you want real stats, just go and look up actual numbers, or better yet, watch it with your eyes. But for offensive line, I'll give them that, because at least they give you a little bit of leeway. And I can see that. I mean, Dotson played a really good game. But, Gingy, so we talked about the offensive recipe for success for a young quarterback is run the ball to open up the pass, right?
Yes.
So defensive and special teams, and I'm going to call out, because I think big old Harvin had another shank this week, if I'm not mistaken, because that's what he is. He's Shankzilla. So that's not good. But more importantly, when you have a young quarterback, the most important quarter for a defense to show up and play football is the first quarter, Gingy. And why is that?
Allows you to establish pace and tone for the rest of the game.
Exactly, because it's hard to play from behind in the NFL. I mean, look at all the Steelers' wins over the last 2 years. They normally are the team to score first or have the lead by halftime. Not very easy to come back in the modern-day NFL. Not very well. Actually, it's easier in the modern day, but it's not easy to come back in the NFL at all. Why can't this defense show up in a first quarter? Is it purely that T.J. Watt is this defense? I mean, look what Highsmith has done without Watt. I think he's down to now less than 2 quarterback pressures per game on average. Is T.J. Watt the whole defense? Is that what I should get to? But I mean, 16 points against a Miami team that does a really good job scoring. Is there hope there? But the fact is 13 of those were in the first quarter, so we had to play the whole game from behind. What is this defense? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it mediocre? Is it TJ Watt? Is it what?
I don't know what it is for you, Donkey, and that's what I think that's one of the recipes that gets you to and spots the lack of identity.
Fair.
I
But
think the defense is TJ Watt.
that's
Unfortunately,
also
I mean they haven't shown up since he's been gone. The defense is TJ Watt.
to be fair, Laskers, they showed up in the Tampa game, although whether they actually showed up in the Tampa game or Tampa doesn't show up offensively in any game is a question to be had.
That's the one.
But to be fair,
Tampa hasn't shown
remember,
up.
this is a Miami team that went and scored 30 points, I believe, on the Buffalo Bills to beat them. We held them to
Yes.
16. I mean, there's no splash plays, there's no sacks, there's very few tackles for loss. Again, the best play we had was them dropping the ball. Again, shallow crossers and power zone plays when the running game killed us. Couldn't stop them. That's how they got out to such a big lead. But honestly, they only gave up one touchdown.
I did see, to credit to the Steelers, making, I mean, it wasn't a huge adjustment, but they did make adjustments on the defense to at least stop the guys cutting up the seams. What was that receiver on their team? I can't remember his name. It was a Godwin always in the middle.
That's
Just gouging us on third down. Yeah. Well, who was it?
You're talking number 14. Heck, if I can remember his name. You want to talk Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill? I got you.
Oh,
But
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah,
Number
yeah.
14 did show up.
On Waddle, kind of to see if they stopped that. They were able to get Bush and Jack going with him up.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, hell, I do remember this name. But 14 Trent Sheffield.
Yep, that sounds right.
Freefield, actually. If you want
There
to
was
do it.
That sounds like what the name was of the guy.
That was getting shut down finally in the second half, and I am proud for making that adjustment. But again, Donkey, you're right. The outside zone run, setting up the slant, the quick slant, and all the stuff that's open across the middle. It was an identity for that offense.
I want to point out something really funny to you. Did you notice every Miami run play, they ran at Alex Highsmith, whether he was on the left side or the right side? The Steelers tried to get smart and move him on the side of the field he was, and every time the Dolphins ran at Alex Highsmith. Every time.
What are you trying to say, Donkey?
Well, I'm trying to say that Alex Highsmith is a great pass rusher, but needs to be off the field on pass or on running downs. However, I'm going to put this on the same note. I don't know who the hell you're replacing with because they have a bunch of mongs as a backup.
Say next, who the hell are you going to put there, Donkey?
Ryan Anderson? Is that the dude that we signed away from Washington? I don't know, Gigi. I don't know what the solution is, but I'm telling you right now, it pains me when I can just tell them where they're going to go. And my wife is like, why'd you know where they're going to go? Because I'm like, I'm a Steelers fan. I know where our weakness is. That's where I would go.
Everybody knows where you're going to go.
Side note, Gigi, there's a guy you mentioned who, by the way, this is why you should take PFF grades with a grain of salt. Definitely the best middle linebacker on the field, again, was Devin Bush. But I believe he had the worst PFF grade for this week out of middle linebackers, which makes no sense because, again, he didn't play a great game, but he played a better game than anyone else. I mean, every time I turned around, Miles Jack was getting burned by whoever he was trying to cover.
It's not really his role, Donkey.
I'm going to tell you, there's only two players on that whole defense who get a plus rating for me for the game. And it's Terrell Edmonds and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Those two boys played a great game. Those two boys kept those explosive receivers in front of them, made some plays. And did anyone watch Terrell Edmonds outrun Tyreek Hill to a football? Seriously? That's what's up. It was the play down the sideline. He somehow got there and hit the ball and didn't get pass interference. Hell of a play because I don't know who was playing left corner at that time or right corner at that time, but they just kind of let Tyreek Hill go by him, and Edmonds makes a great save on the back end. However, Edmonds did drop an interception. Killer. I believe we also had Cam Sutton dropping another interception. Ike Taylor 2.0. Yes. Dude has great cover skills. Dude can't catch a football. Not quite as good as Ike Taylor, I'll say that. And we had Levi Wallace drop too, and I believe he
Donkey, in my book, we're not talking A's and B's, but we got a passing grade for this week. And I'll tell you what, Donkey, the performance, the whole narrative of this story changes if Kenny throws a strike instead of a pick at the end of the game, and there's a 17-16 victory. The whole everybody, oh, that defense is A+. They held them Valley Miami Dolphins.
You know damn good and well that would not be said on my show right now, JJ.
Keep count. I'd be saying it. I'd be saying it right now. They'd get an A+ if they win the game because they held an explosive offense to 16 points, and when that happens, you should win the game. But overall, I think that it was passable.
I was really wanting to see if Gingy would get into it with me over the My Show comment, but whatever. It's our show. It always has been. I was really just trying to get Gingy going, and Gingy B and Gingy just lays it off.
Fired up about the missed opportunities, Donkey. The 4 picks on the ground. Any of those get picked, and this game could be completely different. It was really, and that's what I mean. It was the difference between 2 or 3 different plays in a game. It was really within their grasp. They have this team, a team in the A. Big danger. Here we go. The Steelers. Precipice of it.
You're right. That's the problem with this team is they're right there, not over the hump. But again, in my opinion, too many throws from a quarterback that's a rookie, too many mistakes at the end of the game. Maybe weather played a factor, maybe it didn't. Who knows? Defense played well, but not well enough. Just everything seemed to be just a little bit short of what you needed. And I guess my comment was a little short of what I needed to get the content, a little fire out of Gingy. Didn't quite get it going, but I tried. Any closing thoughts on the Miami?
I'm fired up about this deal. I mean, here's the thing, Donkey. I'm fired up right now because it's 2-5 football team. Power ranking says they're dead. They're all dead. Stick a fork in them. They're dead. They're booty. Get them out of here. You know what, Donkey?
Index. That's up from where
you know what, Donkey? I'm not ready to throw in the towel. I think the games are still worth turning on and watching. And as we transition forward to what we're going to talk about this weekend with the Steelers playing an undefeated Eagles unit, I still think there's good reason to watch this game, given the performances they're putting out there. They're just on the edge, Donkey.
I hear you. And if you want to segue, fine, we'll segue. Steelers, Eagles. Really weird for me when I looked up the season history or series history. The Steelers are 29, 48, and 3 against the Eagles. My God, did they kick our booties? At Pittsburgh, the Steelers are 20, 20, and 1. The Steelers are 9, 28, and 2, including this fun one for you. 9 straight losses traveling to Philadelphia. Not a good thing to look at there. Largest win in the series history was Philadelphia by 34 points in 1965 and a 47-13 win at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's largest win was also at Pittsburgh in a 31-0 game in 1959. Longest streak, the Philly team won 7 straight between 47 and 1950, and Pittsburgh won 4 straight between 1936 and 1938. We've been playing these guys for a long damn time, I guess. The current streak is the Steelers won the last meeting, which of course happened in 2020, and that was a 38-29 victory for your Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the series breakdown. A lot of fun breakdown going into this. You're talking an Eagles offense with A.J. Brown making a huge difference on that team about it. Jalen Hurts not throwing a lot of touchdowns, but not throwing interceptions, and then rushing for a crap ton of everything. A running game that does a good job. A defense that does a good job. Last year, do you see a weakness in this Eagles team? I mean, they are undefeated for a reason, right?
I definitely do not see a weakness. I mean, AJ's definitely made a huge difference in that team. And, good for them going out and getting them. But other than that, no, I really don't see a weakness currently in that team, and I'm scared this week.
Gingy, is this the latest iteration of a great team because they're able to spend money because they have a quarterback on a rookie contract?
Possible. And that is the recipe for success in today's NFL. is finding that guy who can fit into the salary cap in that unit. But don't, if you're talking, their weakness is being human, just like every other football team. I'll tell you how we get after them. Pressure on the quarterback. I don't care if you're Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts, Joe Montana, Ben Roethlisberger. You put pressure on them, and that's going to be the key to victory here.
One of those guys you named tend to perform better when you're hanging on to him, so I don't know if I'd put him in that same category. But I will get into talking about Ben Roethlisberger a little later. And what is the Steelers' problem, and how do we fix it? And should it be fixed before the Eagles game or after the Eagles game? But they traded for Robert Quinn, good pass rusher, not having a good year. I think he only had one sack with Chicago before got to Philly. Do you see him coming in and adding an even extra spark to already good defense last year?
I definitely think he's going to add some spark.
Now, Gingy, Philly has a good offensive line. You talked about the Steelers getting pressure. All right, the Steelers, I think, blitzed a total of 4 times against Miami, and you saw 0 pressures. Like, 0 pressures. I know that's not really the stat that they're going to give you, but that's how it felt. We lose Larry Ogunjobi for this week. Still losing a quarterback. I think Akila Witherspoon's back, but he's been getting torched all year. And Levi Wallace is gone. How do we get pressure against this good thing? What are you looking for? What kind of plays do you think? What kind of personnel groups? Is there a way for us to get pressure and get an early start to the game rather than trailing by 10 minutes by the time the quarter's over?
Well, Donkey, there's definitely going to be some talk about that later in the factors, I think. But for now, I'll reiterate, like I said, with defense last week, non-existent pressure allowed Tua too much time back there, too much comfort. He still gave unforced errors, and we didn't take advantage of them. Missed opportunities, Donkey. Missed opportunities.
Miami had the ball hit their hands 3 times, 3 interceptions. Pittsburgh had the ball hit their hands 4 times for 0 interceptions. Yep.
And I'm not gonna lie. I feel like their strategies as teams are kind of similar. I mean, yeah, like the Eagles have more of a running threat than Miami did, but they still both have dynamic quarterbacks that are dual, big deep pass play / run threat options. They got big over the top wide receivers. Philly having AJ Brown in there playing kind of the role that Tyreek does in Miami. So I'm feeling like Philly is actually a more solid version of Miami. But being able to play them last week could give us a heads up of what maybe some of the things we're going to be looking at this week.
Little bit different on. Well, I guess you could say they run the read option plays with Miami. He really didn't run read options with Tua last week. If he was doing it, he was going to pan the ball or throw on the RPOs. Although Tua did lower his head twice, which, what the hell are you doing, dude? Don't lower your head.
Crazy.
You just came off 2 concussions, you crazy dude. I understand you that makes Tua, right? Is that absolute desire to be the best and win the game. But, dude, calm it down a little bit because I'd like to see your career last more than 3 seasons. It's just me personally. I've always been a fan of Tua. You guys know what I said. We should have traded for him when I heard Miami was considering it. I've always liked Tua. I don't want to see him get hurt anymore. Jalen Hurts, little guy. We've seen him have struggles in games where he's gotten hit early because the little nicks just affect him a lot more. Very finally dial up some dang blitzes, or is here play to keep these receivers in front of us and play to hold them to field goals? Because that's what it seems like it's been the last couple of weeks, is just hope to hold them to field goals.
Ooh. Well, I hope they don't. I hope they've done their homework, Donkey, because I don't know the right answer on that one. Do you know how does Jalen Hurts do against the blitz? Is he one of these guys that read really well and scheme out of it, or
all right,
we get after him that way?
Last year, terrible. This year's been pretty successful, but he's been more successful at baiting it to running for success, if that makes sense. So he's been a lot better at running the ball out of the blitz, which then comes to mind. You play a spy on him, you let Devin Bush spy, something like that. because this year he's been successful, but he hasn't really been successful throwing the ball against the blitz. So I guess you want to blitz with the idea of making him have to throw, if that makes sense.
Makes sense to me. Get after him.
Before we get into breaking down how the Steelers can attack Philly offensively, though, Laskers, I sent you and Gingy a nice text this week to state how the Steelers' offense sucks at scoring during scripted drives, which means first quarter, third quarter, I consider those scripted quarters by offensive coordinators. You come out with a scripted game plan to start the game, and you come out with a scripted game plan to start the half, right? Is that fair to say, you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Gingy,
yeah, hope in the third quarter.
Okay, so big problem here I have, and it's the problem I had with Randy Feature at the end of the year, because if you remember, the Steelers scored in the first quarter one time in the final 11 games of Randy Feature's 10 years as offensive coordinator. The Steelers only scored in the first quarter one time. Now, they scored 12 points that time, but you're talking 10 games they had zeros. That's why they struggled at the end of the year. People figured out their identity, figured out how to play them. Now we go to Matt Canada in 2021. Ben Roethlisberger's the problem, right? Even I didn't say that, Gingy. Give me some credit. I didn't say Ben Roethlisberger was the problem. I said, but Ben Roethlisberger isn't part of the solution. No, I said that. Remember,
Okay.
I said Ben isn't the problem, but he's not part of the solution. I still don't think he is. But the bigger case now is Matt Canada doesn't have the I had to play Ben Roethlisberger crutch. I said I wanted to see Matt Canada without Ben Roethlisberger. Here's my so far tell. He sucks. He should be gone. The Steelers should evaluate if Sullivan's the guy, because if not, they need to go outside the organization. Well, my biggest fear is they give Canada the whole year, even if he continues to suck, and then next year they give it to Sullivan, because let's be honest, the Steelers don't hire outside the organization. It's not how they do it. It's not their way, which means Sullivan's going to be the next guy. But if he's already on the staff, we can evaluate him now. Canada should get this game, but he needs to prove something. What I'm going to say is the Steelers in the first quarter this year averaged 1.86 points. Okay? They scored 13 points in 7 first quarters. In the second quarter, they scored 43. They get a little better. The third quarter, the other scripted quarter, again, 13 points in 7 quarters. The fourth quarter, 28. None of these are really acceptable numbers, but it shows me something. It shows me that the problem maybe isn't as much with the personnel as it is with the coordinator. And the reason I'm going to say that is we had this problem the year before. In 2021, the Steelers only averaged 2 points in the first quarter. 77 in the second quarter means 4 points a quarter. They had 61 total points in the third quarter to 3.3 points a quarter. They averaged 9 points a game in the fourth quarter. As I told you guys, last year, the Steelers in the fourth quarter and overtime scored 175 points. Everyone knows that's when Ben was calling the plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
They scored 175 points in the other 3 quarters combined. At what point do we start to think maybe Matt Canada is a problem? And here's why I'm going to say this. Jacksonville moved on from their coach in the middle of the season, and they scored a lot more points per game after they fired their coach. They scored, in the final 4 games, they had 16 first quarter points. They only had 48 for the whole season. So I'm going to give you a comparison to show you. The worst team in the league last year on offense was Jaguars, so everyone's here. They scored 48 first quarter points last year in 17 games. The Steelers only scored 37 in 18 games. Even the worst team in the league offensively was better than the Steelers to start games. How is that acceptable? And now this is going on 25 games for Matt Canada, and it's only getting worse. Let's compare that to the best offense in the league last year. The Dallas Cowboys, 116 first quarter points. That's how you get it started. At what point do the Steelers look in the mirror and say, hey, what we're doing as a coaching staff is setting these guys up for failure? Because do stats not make you feel that way, Gingy? First quarter, third quarter, scripted quarters, Steelers can't score. Unscripted quarters, Steelers score points when the guys are out there just winging it. Why the hell are these coordinators not being held accountable?
Can't be, donkey. can't be. This offense is it's too long. We've gone through every excuse in the book. It's the line. It's the skill players. It's Ben. It's the running back. It's the running game. We've gone through every single excuse in the book, and we're still in this position. So
I must be feeling some way because I was a person who stood up for Matt Canada. Albeit he had some pretty bad stops after that. But what he's drawn up here, his plays in Pitt were a lot better than this. Like I said, last week we had the crossing route where the tight end went the same way as the fake pitch. So the whole defense is moving left, and you do the shovel pass to the left. That's not going to work. What he used to do in college was the tight end would start on the left. He would drop out, run to the right while the play's faking to the left. You shuffle pass to the right, and you do misdirection. I don't think Matt Canada is getting it right now. I don't think he's understanding how to design plays. I don't think he's understanding how to use his personnel. I mean, you have Chase Claypool, who's a great deep threat or over the middle receiver, like deep over the middle. We don't run him on go routes. We don't run him on deep crosses. You have Deontay Johnson, and this is what kills me. The quarterback needs to be able to audible. I don't care what you say. When a play is called, if a defense shows a certain front, a quarterback needs to be able to audible. There were 4 times in the Miami game, I go to my wife, and I say, Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool has one-on-one coverage on the outside. They need to run a go route. Do you know what route they ran? A goddamn 5-yard hook route. One-on-one coverage on the outside, and we're running a 5-yard hook route. Are you kidding me? Let the quarterback see. Let the quarterback make the call. Because this is the one on the field, and he knows what's going on. If we're going to handcuff the quarterback, we need to get rid of the coordinator, Gingy. And I'm telling you right now, if Matt Canada doesn't show up in this Philly game, it's time to see if Sullivan can get the job done.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Well, Gingy, do you want to see more of these routes? Do you want to see more 2-receiver plays where Chase Claypool, designed rollout, max protection, designed rollout. Chase Claypool runs a 5-yard hitch route, and the other route is Deontay Johnson running a 2-yard drag route to the left. So no receivers more than 5 yards down the field on a max protect play. Is that really what you want to see for the rest of the year?
Absolutely not, Donkey, but you understand how Gingy feels about inconsistency.
Well, I hear you, but is inconsistency worse than consistently sucking? Just a question.
They're just very evil things, Donkey.
Because what is our offense up? Have we broken the 25-point mark this year?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I'm looking it up.
Well,
I believe on offense, the most points our offense put up in the game was 20. Yeah, 20. I believe our offense put up 20 points twice.
I was thinking 23 in overtime versus Cincy.
Defensive touchdown, offense
23, yeah.
Offense didn't put up all the points, defensive touchdown. I'm looking purely offensive points.
No, 32 in the preseason.
All right, yes. If we're gonna beg on the preseason games, that tells you how far down the rabbit hole we have to go to prove anything. But Gingy, I know you're afraid. Mike Tomlin's afraid to change. But at what point do we look at this? What do we look at this like this? Sure, inconsistency is a bad thing. But how many quarterbacks have you seen ruined by an offensive coordinator who didn't know how to use them? Like, hell, I'm going to give you a good example. Who in the hell thought that Danny Dimes could lead a winning football team, Gingy?
Here.
He gets a coordinator, an offensive coach in the Bull who does one thing and one thing only. He makes sure Danny Dimes is in a position where Danny Dimes is in a position he can succeed. If Matt Canada, to this point, has proven he cannot put Ben Roethlisberger in a position to succeed. He cannot put Mason Rudolph in a position to succeed. He put Mitch Trubisky in a position to fail, and he's doing the same with Kenny Pickett. At what point do we say, enough's enough? We've given you 4 quarterbacks to try, and you failed all 4 of them?
I don't know, Donkey. They got to make some tough calls here very shortly.
That's true, because you know as good as I do, and maybe last year's or you actually knows this, but can you think of an offensive coordinator, because I can't, at least in the Mike Tomlin era, think of an offensive or defensive coordinator who was hired outside the organization?
I can't think of one.
It's not the Steeler way.
Exactly. So we need to evaluate who the next guy up is this year, because if the next guy up is going to be as bad as the current guy up, who is going to be as bad as the previous guy up, who, my God, I can't believe I'm saying this, is making me miss Todd Haley.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Feature football, and you watch Matt Canada football, I'm going to tell you one thing. At least while Todd Haley football was predictable, at least Todd Haley football is professional football. These dudes belong in Pop Warner. That's all I'm going to say, Gingy.
Don't ask for the true original form of Dinkenstank to come back.
No. If I ask anyone to come back, it's going to be Wisenhunt. Let's just wing it, baby. I love that. At least that was fun. Hey, remember, we had one of the best offenses in the league under Todd Haley. It was very predictable, but it was very successful. And this is really hard for me to say because you guys know this. I think I haven't been doing it. No, we haven't started the show yet. But I ripped on Todd Haley super hard. I wanted him gone so bad. I didn't want Randy Feaster to follow him up. I didn't want Matt Canada. I said if you're going to hire internal, Matt Canada is the best option, but that's because none of the options internally are good. Everyone knows I wanted Charlie Batch, and I still want Charlie Batch. Charlie, I hope you hear this, and in your next pregame, you talk about what the game plan should be.
You tell
so
them
the Steelers
how,
can hear you.
how it's going to be.
Because, geez Louise, dude, Gingy,
I know.
We're going against a good defense. We're going against a great Eagles team. Give me hope we can win this game. Give me something, because I went on my little rant because that was my research for this week, was to show how terrible we are in the first quarter in scripted drives. Please, give me something that gives me hope in this Philly game.
I'll try to, Donkey, but again, that's really going to come into what my X factor is going to be in terms of breaking down the game plan. And I see, got to rely on our strengths, right? We talked about players who are playing into their weaknesses and not their strengths. We got to be a football team that plays into our strengths and not our weaknesses, because, well, Donkey, there's a fair list of them, and we need to stay away from them. All right. When we do talk about our strengths, I think the core of this unit definitely still lies with the defense. So we build around there, and it builds around the pass pressure.
I was honestly going to ask you what the could you give me some hope for this game?
No, I really can't.
All fresh out of hope, baby.
I'm going to go with Gingy and say that the defense is our only hope, but I'm still very concerned.
How long prior to the game do you have to activate someone off IR? Does anybody know that?
I think you can do it up to game time.
All right, so then you both get where I'm going for my only hope for this game.
Yes.
Yeah, TJ Watt getting activated is the only hope I have for this game. So I think we did a decent job of breaking down the Steelers and what the Eagles do and how the Eagles do it well with four-man pressure and sitting back and playing a lot more, which, by the way, the NFL as a whole, playing a lot more cover 2 or cover 6, cover 2.5 field quarters on the other. Zone coverages this year has really been preventing things. The Eagles do that. That's going to limit the Steelers' ability. Any closing thoughts before we get to your predictions and your X factors?
No, I don't.
No, I've said it all, Donkey. We've got to just capitalize on what we've been given. All right, we might not be the most talented team on the field, but if we play like a team, take what we're given, we have a shot.
Gingy, you've been teetering on this. I'm not getting into my X factor till we get to a point. So I'll start with you because my curiosity has been stoked for probably the last 15 minutes.
Donkey, glad you say something here. Again, we're going around the defense, and what is the classic in Steelers? Blitzburg. All right, that's getting in the quarterback's face. That's making that quarterback commit unforced errors, commit silly decisions that allow our DBs to take advantage, get in that offensive head. And right now, as you said, without TJ Watt being that guy, Alex Highsmith has to be the guy. And Alex Highsmith is going to be my X factor this week. He requires putting Jalen Hurts on the ground at least 2 times.
I would like to see that. On the dirt with a ball in his hand or just on the dirt?
No, one forced fumble along with that. We need turnovers this week. Again, you see that defense hanging in there versus Miami, only allowing them to put 16 points on the board. I'll tell you what, Donkey, if Philadelphia Eagles are put anything less than 20 points on the board and the Steelers don't win, it's a tragedy. It's a flippin' tragedy.
I hear you on that. What's your game prediction?
Ooh, game prediction. Donkey. This week, it's a game a lot like last week's. This week, they finish. Pittsburgh Steelers disrupt the undefeated season of the Philadelphia Eagles and win 20-19 in dramatic fashion.
Very nice. Laskers, your X factor, your breakdown, your winner.
Give me 1 second. I need to look at something. All right, that's
all over it.
No. My X factor is going to be Kenny. It's going to be Kenny Pickett. We need him to show up and not throw 3 interceptions. You can't throw any interceptions to win this game. But my prediction is 48-7. And can you guess what the team is?
Here we go, Steelers. I'm not picking that at all.
No, Eagles. 48-7 Eagles.
Holy hell, Laskers.
But
worse than the Buffalo
show
beatdown.
up. Yeah, I think it's going to be worse than the Buffalo beatdown.
Oh.
Okay.
That's why I needed to look. I needed to know what the score was because I was already predicting 48, but I just need to make sure it was worse.
Okay. My X factor is the turnover game. I think the Steelers have to win the turnover battle to have a chance. You can frame it however the hell you want. You can blame it more on the offense, more on the defense. I think the X factor is the turnover battle. I think the Steelers win the turnover battle. They have a chance to win this game. I think they don't win the turnover battle. Personally, I don't think they have a chance to win this game. Like I said, I'd love to see them win this game, but the Philly team is good. They're coming off a bye week. They're extra prepped. They're ready to go. Crosstown rivalry, so it's not a game that they're going to overlook on the schedule. And unfortunately, Gingy, I feel this is 10 straight for Philly. This is going to be the Eagles 31-17. Steelers again, no first quarter points. Offense looks very blah. I think they turned the ball over twice. I think Philly turns the ball over once. And that's all you need to know. Negative turnover battle loses them the game. 31-17, Philadelphia Eagles. But before we get into our shoutouts, we still have a game to talk about. Bengals, Browns at Cleveland Laskers. At Cincy.
Oh, I think I moved it. I think it's at
Browns.
It's at Browns.
It's somewhere in Ohio, so does it really matter? Gingy, who you got in that game?
Give me the Bengals.
And we won't talk about the Ravens game because, someone predicted it wrong again.
See.
So me and Gigi predicted that one right, and then I'm going Bengals because it's Monday night, and the Browns are not so good.
I'm going Bungles because I'm going to be honest here. the better quarterbacks on the Bengals sideline, the better quarterbacks starting to play football. I understand Jamar Chase is hurt, but that just means the Pip Boy, Tyler Boyd's going to get more targets. It's not like they aren't deep at wide receiver over there in Cincinnati. But hey, Jamar Chase, hip injury, could be serious with the Bengals going forward. And I think the Bengals are going to feel the pressure to have to perform to keep up pace with the Ravens, who just had a nice win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And anyone want to talk about that Ravens team running for 200 yards in the second half? My God, why don't they just run the ball every freaking play?
They should.
Pretty much what they intend to do. If their game plan is getting executed appropriately, which it was, versus the Bucs, they were not resisting that game plan. Yeah, then let's go do that every game if you let them.
I don't know if anyone listened to the after game thing, but Richard Sherman just throwing fucking dirt on the Bucs with the Ravens came out in the first half and decided they were going to try to see if they could do something because they knew they could just run it down the Bucs road in the second half and win the game. Like, he's literally saying they went out there and pretended the first half was a preseason game because they knew they could win in the second half, is what Richard Sherman said. And if that's the case, my God, that's a scary football team there in Baltimore. Shout out time, and I know Laskers has one ready to go, so before he forgets what it is, we'll go to Laskers for the first shout out.
Oh, I'm definitely shouting out Tom Brady. Thank you for passing Ben Roethlisberger for the all-time leading sack quarterback. And, I'm also going to say, hey, shout out for you getting divorced from Giselle.
And being 2 games under 500 for the first time in your career. Gigi, shout out.
Shout out to the young boy Kenny Pickett. All right, I know he put up an L in that game, but after coming in relief and then in the second week getting knocked out halfway through the game, the young man put together 4 quarters of football. All right, you can tell how bad he wants it. You saw him force some balls the last few drives there. He just needs to calm down, take a deep breath, and get locked in on those drives and stop trying to force things that ain't there. Shout out to him for putting first 4 quarters of football together consecutively. Let's go.
Well, the Bills game, but I don't know if we want to talk about that.
That doesn't count. Come on, what game? What Bills game?
All right, fair enough. I like that shout out. I love the positives I see from Kenny Pickett. He's not that instant world beater, but he looks the part of an NFL starting quarterback. That's a good thing to see. Would love to see it develop a little more. But that leads to my shout out pretty good there, Gingy. George Pickens, first career touchdown. Let's go, baby. That's what we want to see. That's what we need to see. Target this man more. Don't target the 5-interception Deontay Johnson with his 40 quarterback rating. Start targeting George Pickens and his, 100 or 99.8 QB rating when you throw to him. No drops. Start targeting Pat Freiermuth. Target Najee more. Those are the 3 guys who are catching the ball and doing things with the ball. I'm surprised Najee is that list, but he really is like 112 quarterback rating or something when he's targeted. Target those 3 boys. Forget Claypool if he doesn't want to show up. Forget I don't try Deontay Johnson. Target those 3 boys. Shout out to Pickens. Keep it up. Keep trying to prove that you are the next great receiver of I can actually get separation, but I'm never actually covered types because I personally love to see it. What?
98 for Najee.
Oh, damn it, Najee, you're killing me. I guess that's time for me to let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger's YouTube channel. Leave us a like, comment, follow, so you know when all the content comes out. We had a nice power ranking show. Ginger's and Laskers finally gave me their homework because I finally remembered to ask for it. So now we not only have the power index, it was the power rankings this week. Woo-hoo! We have Bug Cap, which is where you get to hear me really rant about the previous game. I try not to talk about the future games or fun stuff like Matt Canada sucks at first quarter stuff. I try to keep that for this. For the longer show, try to keep that shit a little shorter. Those are the short ones. And maybe we'll do some more content if you guys want to see it. Maybe we'll get some community members to put out a power ranking top 10, and probably even more for the fun for the Dog Nation. But that's all I got. I'm going to send it over to Laskers.
It's last year's everywhere, so you can definitely find me there. And over to Gingy.
This is Ginger here. We're muting Gingy on Xbox. We playing games. We talking football with the boys. Steelers Nation. Undefeated Philadelphia. Let's see if we can't put together enough team spirit and wave them things fast enough and hard enough to get them Steelers a victory this week. Boys, let's go. Wave them if you got them. Here we go, Steelers.